watching us from. It's time for press review here on Luntha television, and for today, you'll be with me, King Mage Kawendo, and my colleague. So it's time again that we look into some of the stories that are appearing in both papers, The Nation as well as the Daily Times. So to begin with the Daily Times, on the front page, there is a story which says no fuel queues in 2023. That's according to NOCMA. And partly, the story says the National Oil Company of Malawi, NOCMA, has expressed the hope that the fuel queues will not resurface in the country during the second half of the last year's during the second half of last year, fuel supply chain hurdles. So Malawians lining up for petroleum products such as diesel and petrol for days on end. The problem, which was blamed on forex exchange shortages, is when the company secured $50 million US facility from the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, BADA.
Right on the front page of The Nation, MCCCI wants used gas Kaunjika imports ban. The Malawi Confederation of Chambers of Commerce and Industry, MCCCI, has asked government to ban importation of motor vehicles older than 10 years from the year of make to address foreign exchange challenges, making a submission of inputs from business during the 2023-2024 pre-budget consultation meeting in Luntha. MCCCI Chief Executive Chancellor Kafira Banja recommended that the ban, saying motor vehicles older than 10 years consume a lot of spare parts and are among top 10 imports. He also recommended a ban on second-hand clothes in the near future, urging Treasury to develop medium-term strategy.
Okay, and on the second page, there is a story which says UDF distances itself from pro-Atpere group, and the party says the United Democratic Front UDF has distanced itself from a grouping calling itself Friends of Atpere Muluzi, saying it does not know anything about it. In a communication sent by the party's Secretary General Kandi Badambo and the acting publicity secretary Yusuf Fumwawa, the party described the development as worrisome.
All right, still on the front page of The Nation, government out to fill AIP gaps, and some headlines say procures some fertilizer from local suppliers, and the minister insists enough fertilizer in stock. Partly, in a bid to meet fertilizer demand amid revelations that just 30% of the commodity and affordable imports program AIP has been redeemed, Minister of Agriculture has stepped up measures to fill supply gaps. Minister of Agriculture Sam Kawale said after touring some selling points in Mzimba Northeast on Thursday that some of the fertilizer under AIP was bought from local private traders but not disclose the tonnage.
Okay, my last one as far as local news is concerned, FFRFM told to increase fertilizer selling points, and it says a member of the Presidential Task Force on Affordable Imports Program AIP implementation, Timothy Mtambo, has asked the smallholder farmers fertilizer revolving fund of Malawi SFFRFM to increase the number of selling points to decongest existing deposits and serve hard-reach areas better. The call comes in the wake of challenges such as congestion in AIP selling points.
Moving on to business in The Nation newspaper, budget to focus on quick wins. Minister says wealth and job creation top the agenda. Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs Sosten Gwengwe says the 2023-2024 national budget will focus on quick wins in sectors that can generate wealth, create jobs, and entrench food security. Speaking in Luntha yesterday during the first 2023-2024 pre-budget consultation meeting, the minister said Treasury will also allocate resources to retire the country's public debt, currently at 7.3 trillion kwacha, and enable government to sufficiently support social sectors.
And as far as Times Business News is concerned, stakeholders call for tax regime change, and the economic stakeholders, including the Malawi Confederation of Chambers of Commerce and Industry, MCCCI, the Institute of Chartered Accountants in Malawi, ICAM, and the ICT Association of Malawi, ICTAM, have emphasized the need for a downward division or abolishment of certain tax lines in the 2023-2024 tax budget. This, they say, would propel industry growth and in turn grow the economy.
Well, unless if you have another story, but I think we can move on.
Okay, let me take just one in as far as business news is concerned, and this one says government impounds 80 trucks, 65 metric, smuggled maize, metric tons. And part of the story says representatives of the Ministry of Trade have indicated that they have impounded 80 trucks carrying over 65 metric tons of maize in the past week. This follows a statement the ministry issued over the weekend warning against the vice, which they indicated was becoming worrisome.
All right, I think we can move on to the arts
and culture segment.
Yes, and maybe you have a quick one. Otherwise, I have one here. As Sam Chris joins the cholera fight. As the country continues to grapple with the cholera outbreak, several stakeholders have intensified efforts to contain the public health threat. The damage that the outbreak has caused has forced hip-hop artist Sam Chris to do a song titled Cholera, which is preaching about the dangers of the disease and what people can do to prevent it. The song has been done in some unconventional hip-hop style, and the way he lays down the case about the dangers of the disease is captivating.
I will only take you through one as and culture story, and this one says the sample back says gospel music has lost direction, and partly the story is saying gospel musician Peter Sambo came out of the canon yesterday and read into gospel music, said it has lost direction in the country. The artist, who has been inactive, said there was a need to put it back on his lane and indicate that he is ready with his 10th album, Zak Mwamba. However, could not be drawn to say what exactly he thinks has gone wrong with gospel music.
Right, before we move on to the sports, moving on to the international stories, Ramaphosa vows to tackle corruption power outages. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has pledged to resolve the power outages and institutionalized corruption that have crippled his country's economy. He said this on Sunday during the commemoration of the 111th anniversary of the governing African National Congress, ANC, at Dr. Petrus Molemera Stadium in Free State Province. In a statement quoted by Chinese state-run Xinhua News Agency, Ramaphosa said he would work to restore the capabilities of law enforcement organizations and other criminal justice system institutions that have been compromised by state capture and corruption.
Okay, and as far as international news is concerned, I have one here which says Mozambique suspected kidnap kingpin arrested in ASA. A Mozambican man accused of masterminding kidnappings for ransom has been arrested by Interpol in South Africa. Ismail Malude Lamos Nange is suspected of orchestrating kidnappings that netted several millions of dollars in ransom over the past 2 decades. SA police said he was arrested in a raid at an upmarket housing estate in Centurion near the capital, Pretoria.
Right, and in the sports, on the back page, at the back page of the Nation newspaper, clubs caught off guard as FAM comes up with women's team's requirement. The Football Association of Malawi FAM has directed that from next season, TNM Super League clubs will be required to have women's teams as part of club licensing. But some clubs that the nation spoke to, say the move is not viable. So far, only 4 of the 16 top flight clubs, namely Nyasa Big Blades, Civil Service United, Thames Barracks, and Moyale FC, have women's football teams. Caspar Jangari, who is farm licensing and compliance manager, said the decision follows the resolution by the Confederation of African Football, CAF, that all National League clubs should have women's teams.
Alright, on the very back page for local sports, Queen's Jews in Limbo, and Shibi has a caption which says NAMO awaits government support, and part of the story is saying Malawi national netball team players will have to wait in a bit longer to receive outstanding allowances, as Netball Association of Malawi NAMO is yet to secure funds for the cause. Queen's players have been voicing out their concern silently for fear of repercussions, as the authorities threatened to take a hard line on players who will go on record.
Right, and finally, in international sports, pressure piles up on Chelsea manager. That's another story that is appearing in the Nation newspaper. Chelsea manager Graham Potter hopes the club's owners will give him time to get things right. He said this after the Blues suffered a 4-0 humiliation to City, which was their second defeat to the Premier League champions within 3 days. After a dismissal run, which has seen the Blues win just one of their last 8 Premier League games, Potter is already feeling the heat at Stamford Bridge.
Okay, my last one, Barcelona 3 points clear, and the part of the story says Ousmane Dembele scored a first half winner as Barcelona moved 3 points clear at the top of La Liga by edging to victory against Atletico Madrid. Dembele scored with a sweet side foot finish following Gavi's lay-off, and also hit a post in the second half. Atletico could have reveled in other time, but Antonio Griezmann's effort was clearly off the line by Ronald Araujo. Alright, with that, we have also come to the very end of today's program of Press Review here on Luntha Television, a program that we have just looked into some of the stories, a few stories that are making headlines in as far as the daily papers are concerned, but maybe you may be interested to have your own copies. Each paper is going out at 1,000 kwacha. And from us here is a goodbye. You have been with me, King Mage Kamendo, and my colleague
Bernard Mwanza.
Thank you for watching.